Hello and welcome to a special episode of Let's Code Physics. This is a video that I recorded back on Valentine's Day. I wanted to make a gift for my fiance. She is a major Ticket to Ride fan. We got Ticket to Ride Europe for Christmas, and we played it a lot, and I mean a lot. And that's coming from somebody who likes board games, saying that we played it a lot. And we noticed that we were getting kind of predictable in our gameplay because we'd played it so much that we knew what the routes were. So I decided for Valentine's Day that I would make for her a Ticket to Ride route generator on my computer that would generate random routes, so that would take away the familiarity of the game. And I made this on Valentine's Day while she was at my house. So I didn't get to record a full video about it. I mean, I didn't get to record it with commentary because otherwise I would have been saying out loud what I was doing. And so what you're seeing here is the video recording that I made. I literally turned on record, started making it, and figured, hey, I'll add a voice narration later on. Well, now is later on. The way I started the code, basically the way the code works is to take two random cities in Ticket to Ride Europe, calculate the distance between them, and then award points accordingly. And so in order to do that, I had to get out the location of each of these of the cities. So what you're seeing in here is my Excel spreadsheet. I took a screenshot or a picture from Google Images of the map for Ticket to Ride Europe, and I just read off the pixel location of each of the cities and save that into a spreadsheet. And then in a little bit, I'm going to copy and paste that as the basis for my code, so that the code knows where all of the tickets are located. While this thing is getting started here, I should probably take a moment to point out I'd like to do another video about this, because what we've discovered is that this code is a lot of fun. I'm going to include a link to it in the description below, but it is extremely hard because it does not take into consideration anything having to do with the length of the routes. So when you go to draw routes in the game, you might end up with 3 very reasonable routes, or you might end up with 3 20-point routes and not have enough train cars to complete them. So the current version of the code is sort of in hard mode. And so what I'd like to do in the next video is add on an easy mode and then a regular mode. So that way you could even have different players playing with different level handicaps. This is where I wanted to make sure that I had a complete list of all the cities. So I Googled list of cities in Ticket to Ride and pulled up Board Game Geek just to check to make sure that I'd gotten all of them. So here I've finished checking my list against the list from Board Game Geek. So this tells me that I do have all the cities listed. So here I'm trying to set up the code for VPython. So I'm starting a list of cities where it's going to append whatever is in cell A1, so that way it'll have the city name in the list. So basically this is just setting up the repetitious codes, because it's the same code written over and over again, just with a different name in the city, but everything else is the same. You know, the cities list dot append is all the same otherwise. And I'm doing that in Excel using the concatenate command. It's a pretty useful command in Excel. It helps you use all of these different, it helps you put strings of text together. And so here what I've done is I've added in, I'm having it concatenate the Python syntax with the city name and its X coordinate and Y coordinate, so that way it'll have everything saved in terms of this list. It'll have within each list the name and then the X coordinate and the Y coordinate. And then of course I'm going to copy in just a second, I'm going to copy the cell formula down, so that way it will continue down for all of the cities, and it'll just change the cell addresses, keep all the other text the same, and so it gives me all the city names and locations that I need to just copy and paste into the Python code. So here I've got my cities list copied and pasted into Python. So you can see each entry in the list has a list of itself that includes the city name, so that way the user knows what city they're working with, and the x coordinate and y coordinate of the city. So the first thing the code does for the user is ask how many players are playing. The reason I did this was so that players could later reference their names and their player numbers. It doesn't actually store any information about the player currently. In a future version, I would like the code to store the user's list of cities that they've selected so far. And then it could even be used potentially for the scoring. Here I'm checking how to get input into Python because I'm still learning Python as I go throughout my professional activity. And so here I'm just learning how to take the input into a variable so that way you can read in the number of players. Yeah, so currently the way it's going to work is that, or the way it's currently working is that it takes in the number of players, it takes in the names of the players, and then it spits out the initial routes and says, now you need to keep at least 2 of these routes, so it spits out 4, you have to keep 2. Then when you go back for routes, you're going to give it your player number, and then it'll spit out 3 more routes, and you have to keep 1. Currently, you're responsible for keeping track of your routes, usually on paper or on your phone or something like that. Oh, I also had to look up how to clear the terminal in Python because once you've taken down your routes, you don't want the next player to see your routes because then they can interfere with you. Although I'm sure no good Ticket to Ride player would ever interfere with their opponent's route building. So the technique I ended up using to clear the screen is just to print a whole bunch of blank lines on the screen that I found on the YouTube video you see there. So it just defines a function CLS, and then once it calls that function, it clears the screen, and everything goes blank. Wonderful. So here the code is just asking for each player's name. So I've set up a counter IP for the player number. That's going to loop over the number of players. So it's greeting you as player number 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it's asking for your name. One thing that I discovered when I run this is that you have to type your name in quotation marks, which is kind of irritating. I haven't figured out how to get it to just accept text as an input. What you're going to see in just a second is that I try inputting, just inputting the name, and it ends up needing it to be in quotation marks. So here I'm just taking the input, storing it in a local variable name, then I'm appending it to the names list, and then it's going to print the name just to be sure, just to confirm to me of that it got the name correctly. So here it's saying name. Here are your first 4 routes. It's reminding you of the rules that you have to keep at least 2 of them. I think I typed that. Did I type that now? It's been almost 2 months since I did this. This is kind of fun to go back and watch me do this. Oh, here I'm looking up a means to generate random integers. So I'm not just interested in random numbers. I'm particularly interested in a random integer because I'm basically trying to pick a random item from the list. So I'm going to find a random integer generator and basically say I want it to be between 1 and the number of cities, and then that becomes the first city that the code selects. And so here it's the goal of the code here is to loop over 4 times and pick 4 pairs of cities. And so it's doing a random value between 1 and the number of cities. And then it's picking the second city to be the same thing. Now, of course, there's an issue with that is what if it picks the same city twice, right? So what if it picks 7 and then 7? The odds of that are small. And so what I realized at this point was that I needed to set up a loop to have the code keep picking different cities until IC2 wasn't equal to IC1. So basically, I start out with setting up IC2 equal to IC1, so it starts out with the same city. And then the while loop says, as long as those 2 cities are the same, I want you to keep picking random numbers. And then it's going to print those 2 cities. So here it's printing the first city. Then it's going to print the name of the first city. Then of course you got to put in a few spaces just to make it more readable for the humans. Then you do the same thing. I'm doing the same thing here for the second city. Again, printing its name. And then the next thing I need is I need the number of points that each of these is worth. And I'm going to worry about calculating the points in a little bit. So here I'm just checking to see that it'll pick random ones. And here's where I found out that there's an issue with reading in NP. Oh, I called it in play earlier. I can never seem to remember those things. Okay, so here's where I discovered that there's an issue with the text. And so I see that this text Brian is not defined. And so I'm thinking, why won't it take my name? Do I have a variable called Brian somewhere? I don't know. And so what I'm going to do here is, well, let's see what I do here. I don't remember when I discovered the fix for it. This is kind of fun going back and watching myself do this 2 months later and say, hey, dummy, don't forget to call these variables by the same name. Yeah, this is the part where I just flip back and forth between one screen and another, staring blankly. Let's see what I try here. I'll try 2 players. Okay, so here's what I figure out. Maybe it wants it in a quote. And so it got past that. It got to the fact that it doesn't know what random is. So I realized, oh, I need to actually import the random package. So let's try it again. 2 players. Let's try Brian. Maybe I should let my fiance go first. Maybe that would be nicer of me. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm still trying to figure out how you call in packages and all this stuff in Python. I know that's what makes it magical, is that you just import the package and it works, but you still have to figure out how to do it. And here I think I mistyped something. So here we're going to try, oh, I forgot the quotation marks. There we go. Okay, cool. So there was Brian. And so it printed out first route of Roma to Sarajevo, which is a not too difficult route, if I recall correctly. Cool, so I've got that set up correctly. The next thing that I need to do, let's try getting through the program. Okay, so it spits out another random pair of cities, and at that point the program is done. Cool, so now I need to have it repeat this process of picking the cities, and I also need to have it calculate the distance between the cities, and that's what's going to turn into the points for the cities. Oh, and then I need to add in for it to continue asking for you to give it, or continue giving you the opportunity to ask for more routes. You know, so those are kind of the 3 main things to do next. Forgot about the asterisk there. Oh yeah, and I need to give them the opportunity to clear the screen. So I need to add in a pause there. So I'm just adding in a blank input, and then we're gonna do. Oh yeah, here I give the reminder. Type your name in quotation marks. Okay, so here's where it's time to get into the physics of this code, and that means calculating the distance between the cities. So here is where I'm going to start trying to figure out how to calculate the distance between the cities. It's basically going to be the Pythagorean theorem, and then it'll just be a matter of converting the distance in pixels into points. So here I'm figuring out the point conversion. So I need to get the I basically need to take one of the routes that I know, and one of the routes that I know very well is Edinburgh to Athens, because I get that card all the time. So here I'm just taking the distance between Edinburgh and Athens, and I know that one's a 21-point card, so that distance is going to be worth 21 points. And so that's the point conversion factor that I'm setting up here. So here I'm just counting down, and I'm tired of counting, so I'm going to let Python do the counting for me. So Athena is number 3, and Edinburgh is number 15. So I'm reading this off of a smaller window within my computer monitor. So basically the distance between 15 and 13 needs to be worth 21 points. So here I'm changing it to the y coordinates. So that gives you the x and the y, and of course we want that to be linear. Please tell me I make that the square root. Oh dear, I didn't make that the square root? Oh, well, that's a oh, no, please, Brian, go back in. And I know you want to be sarcastic. I know you want to be sarcastic about getting Edinburgh to Athens all the time. But Brian, you got to put that in the square root, buddy, or else this thing isn't going to be linear. Oh, dear. Okay. Well, I think I just found a mistake in my code. Let's see whether I fix that later. Okay, so here's where we get into the distance. Oh, please tell me you notice it. Okay, maybe you don't notice it. Okay, so I'm just copying the formula here. So the distance is equal to this thing. Only now it's not 3 and 15 anymore. It's the 2 random cities. So it's going to be IC1 and IC2. And the beautiful thing about the Pythagorean theorem is, since you're squaring the differences, it doesn't matter which one you put first. Brian, you know that distance needs to be square rooted, right? Please tell me you're going back there to put in a square root. Put in the square root, man! Okay, so here I think I'm encountering some parenthetical issues. Oh, thank goodness. There's the square root. Okay, so I did set that up correctly. Oh, good. I was so worried about that. Oh, my goodness. Wow, oh, man. I almost had to pull this video, y'all. Okay, we are back on track here. I just need to add the square root onto here. There are pauses in this video where I'm not doing anything because, like I said, my fiance was there when I was making this. I just wasn't showing her what I was doing. I said, I want to make a present for you, but I haven't done it yet because it was a busy week. And so Valentine's Day was on a Saturday, and she was kind enough to let me sit there programming for an hour. Well, she didn't know what I was doing. She just knew I was at the computer. And so there are parts where she comes over to talk to me, and I can't let her see what's on the screen. So here we've got the distance being converted into the points. So again, Edinburgh to Athens, or Athens to Edinburgh, is worth 21 points. So that's the scale factor for it. And this distance, it's important to note, this distance is a straight line distance. So some of the cities on the map, like for example, Palermo to Roma, are not worth a lot of points. Even though it takes a boatload of trains to get from one to the other, this code works as the crow flies, not as the train crawls. So here it worked out. I got Erzurum to Brussels. Oops, ran into some issue there. For the points, I need to, chop off the decimal places for the point values. Syntax here, I don't remember getting that. I fixed it. I know I fixed it at some point because the code works. Actually, I guess I kind of like doing this after this after the fact commentary because, You know, because I know that it's going to work out because we've played it a dozen times. I mean, we have played Ticket to Ride more using this code than we have using the tickets at this point. And like I said, this code makes it very difficult because you might get long routes. So one of the ways we play is we each get 2 sets of trains. So I get 2 colors, my fiance gets 2 colors, and we both go for as long routes as we possibly can. And it's basically a race to see who can slog through the most routes at a time, which is pretty great, I think. Let's see here. There's still an unexpected end of file while parsing. I'm not sure why that is. Like I said, I know I fix it. Okay, I think this fixes it, is that I have to tell it that I want it to display that with the request for input. And of course, I got to go through this again. And I don't know why I didn't take more fun and put down funny names or something instead of my own name. Oh, nice try, Brian. Keep working at it. Keep working at it. So yeah, I'd love to get this onto a cell phone app. I know there were some requests to get my my FTL Beam Optimizer onto a cell phone app. Yeah, try changing the quotation marks. That usually makes a difference. That is the mark of desperation right there. Let's see here. Here I type in my name again. Yeah, we'll probably cut till when I fix this problem. Oh, I see. Okay, so what I had to do is I had to change the command from input into raw input. I was actually just looking over at my code for that, and I see that I just found it on the video. Cool. Yeah, so the raw input, it lets you just press enter instead of having to have something to read in, you know, like a number or something. And then, of course, we got to clear the screen so that the next person cannot see it. So let's see. So I should point out, so this whole thing took me about an hour, and I'm at about minute 33 watching it. You're at a shorter minute, but you're at a less shorter minute. You're at less minutes because I've been cutting stuff out. But yeah, this whole thing took about an hour to make. This is about the halfway point. So we're about to get into the really cool stuff. So here's where we're looping over routes because we got to give them 4 routes at the beginning. So they get 4 routes. So while I route is less than 5. Yeah, you don't want to clear the screen in the middle of generating the routes. So that one change, just adding it a little bit, should make it generate 4 routes for me. Let's see, you got 2 players. Hello, my name is Brian, and here are my 4 routes. And what did I get? Well, I kid you not, look at what I got. Athens to Edinburgh. I told you, I draw that all the time. I have probably had that route nearly every other time I played this game. And that includes the times that we play with the code. Oh, Madrid to Kiev. That's another familiar one. Only I'm not the one that gets that one all the time. Actually, no, I don't think that one's a real one in the game now that I think about it. But yeah, we usually end up with routes that, you know, either run perpendicular to each other or that run right into each other. You know, it's kind of fun. Okay, and so here's where I set up the second loop. So in the game, one of the things you can do on your turn is draw more routes. The reason you do this is so that you can get more points, but you want to be judicious about when you do that because you don't want to have, you know, a whole lot of incomplete routes because they do count against you at the end of the game if you haven't completed them. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting up a loop, and at first it's an infinite loop because it's while true, and I'll figure out, well, later on in the video I figure out how to adjust that. And basically what it's doing is it's saying, okay, let me know when you're ready to draw again. And so it's going to here remind you of what your player number is. That doesn't really serve a function, like it's not it. The program currently is not keeping track of who has which routes, but later on it will. Later on I'm going to, in a future episode, I guess I have to be careful with the present tense about whether I mean the future in this video or the future from when I'm recording this video. So in a future episode, I'm going to add in where it'll keep track of the routes that people both drew and that they kept to, sort of maintain the honesty of the game. Not that my fiance is dishonest in this game, and neither am I, but, just so that you don't have that worry. So here what I'm doing is I'm copying everything that was there before, because basically I just need it to repeat the process. The only difference is now I just need it to, run 3 routes instead of 4 routes. So basically I can repeat this entire loop that I had before, and it's here are your next 3 routes instead of your first 4 routes, and then I just have to change the condition on the while from less than 5 to less than 4. And some people ask me why I sometimes use the less than instead of the less than or equal to, and it's because in codes, that equal sign can sometimes be funny, because if it gets IR stored as a 3.999999999, it does not count that as 4. And so it's sometimes safer to put that in. It kind of depends on how cautious of a mood I'm in at the time. So here I am testing the code. There's my first 4 routes, and you notice I did not get very high routes, right? So when you follow the rules of the game and use the cards, you are guaranteed a long route. Because of the way the cards get dealt out, you are guaranteed a route of around 19, 20, 21 points, something like that, but not so here. But at the same time, in the regular game, you get 1 long route and 3 medium-sized routes. In the way this is currently set up, you could get 4 long routes. You could get 4 20-pointers or a couple 17s and an 18 and a 20. And oh dear, there goes the infinite loop. And oh, Brian, what did you do? You forgot to put in your counter increment. I know you love those while loops, but buddy, you got to learn a for loop at some point. I know they scare you because they involve lists and things like that, but buddy, you got to let that go eventually. Oh, that's where I remembered. Oh yeah, it's not name. It's the names list. Yeah. Okay, let's try it again. Brian, enter. Enter. Player 2, enter. Cool. Cool. So here it gives the player number, and I think I made some kind of mistake there. Brian, did we forget how lists work in Python? Did we forget that lists start at 0? Let's go back down, because I bet we remember now that lists start at 0. Goodness, I am talking to myself while I'm programming the same way that I talk to my students while I'm programming. This is nuts. This is absolute nuts. Okay, cool. Working now. Good. don't know what that pause was there for. Go. 1. I guess I could put in that there's 1 player. Ooh, 24-pointer. Nice draw. Then I wouldn't have to keep, going back and forth. Okay, there it's just got 2 of us. And let's see what happens when I type in 1. It says, Brian, here are your next 3 routes. You got a little space issue there, but that's okay. Brian, here are your next 3 routes. So it's continuing to generate more random routes. It even works when I select player 2. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing that occurs to me either at this point or a little bit. Yeah, fix that formatting. That's what you need to fix. Here's the thing that occurs to me near this point or shortly hereafter is, what if it draws the same route twice? Like if and I know the odds of that are very, very small, right? Because there's 40-something routes, so that's 1 out of 40-something squared probability that it'll draw the same one. But still, I mean, you can be drawing a lot of routes, and it's entirely possible that you might end up with the same. So what I add in a little bit is a check for whether it has drawn the same route before. I think I did that on the video. I'm not sure. Though maybe I didn't, because I'm looking at it and I've only got 10 minutes of video time left. So let's watch and see whether I did that on video or did I do that later. Oh, here's where I need to tell it to end the game, because I don't want to have to just kill the program to make it end. And so what I'm going to do is I'm adding in, if you type in 0, because nobody's player number is 0, if you type in 0, then it's going to trigger this logical variable done here. So initially done is going to be false. Do I call it done? What do I call it? Brian, what are we going to call it? You're pausing again. Okay, not done. Okay, yeah, so not done equals true, because it was going to be while not done. So I figured, well, why not just call it not done? So not done. So we are currently not done. And so not done equals true. And so if you type in 0, it's going to make not done equal false. So we are not done, meaning we are done, right? Yeah, I think I'm done with that part. There we go. And of course, the easier way to check that is if IP is less than 1, then we're just going to trigger, that the game is over, basically. In a future episode on this channel, I'm going to add in some difficulty levels. So there'll be an easy difficulty where, let's scale down in difficulty in order. So the hard difficulty is you can get any size route anytime, and it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. The regular difficulty is going to work out the way the game does, where it's only going to give you one long route the entire time. So it's going to check for the length of the route, and if the length of the route is greater than, say, 12, and you've already gotten a long route, then it's going to throw it out. And it's going to make sure that one of your first draws is a long route. So it's going to make sure one of them is like 19 or higher or something like that. Then the easy difficulty is going to have all of those rules, except it's going to add in a 50% probability that that when you draw a set of routes, that 2 of the cities are the same. Oh yeah, here's where I add in the note. Check to make sure. Yeah, add later a check to make sure that the same pair has not been drawn. And I did do that. It's pretty straightforward. It's in the code in the description below. But yeah, so the easy version is going to be where whenever it picks the next pair of routes, there's going to be a 50% chance that one of those cities will be the same city that you drew on the previous route. So in other words, you've got let's say you draw Edinburgh to Athens. There's a 50% probability that on your next route, one of them will be Edinburgh or one of them will be Athens. And that really makes the game a little bit easier, because then you're not building trains everywhere. You're building them in more of a concentrated area and more of a concentrated pattern. And I think that'll be interesting. And and we'll be able to, I'll make it so that you can assign different difficulty levels to different players. So let's say you're playing with your child, and you want to take the handicap, so you might go into normal mode or hard mode, and have your child use the easy mode. Maybe I do add the pair checker here. I didn't realize that. Okay, so we'll get to watch. Looks like we'll get to watch that. Wow, I do that in less than 10 minutes. I'm impressed with myself. Yeah, so this was a really fun code to make. Like I said, I'll be making another version of it in a future episode on this channel. Let's stick around and watch the pair checker. So this one's interesting because I had to create a list of the pairs. And so basically now I'm having to set up another loop. So again, this is within the, this should not be within the IC2 equal to IC1, Brian. I don't think that's going to work out, buddy. Let's see, did I fix that? Why do I check that within the IC2 equal IC1 route? Right. Because, right. Okay, I remember now. I left that in the, I was just checking back with my final version of my code, and it's still the same way there. I remember now, the reason I left it that way is because the way I'm going to trigger it to continue is to just set IC2 equal to IC1. So in other words, first it's going to, I totally misread. I totally misread what I was reading there. Okay, never mind. Yeah. Because it needs to check it within the first. It needs to check within the first loop. So putting it there guarantees that. So here it's checking for whether the two match. So it's checking for whether the first part of the first route is the same as the first part of the second route, or the second part of the second route, and vice versa. So it's checking, both possible orientations. That's why there's 2 ands and 1 or. And basically the way it's enforcing this is if it finds that the routes match, if it finds that this route has been previously drawn, then it's going to set IC2 equal to IC1, and so it's repeating that loop. So that way I only had to set up one loop. So it's checking for both within the same loop. Yeah, I remember now why I did that. Cool. Let's see. What else do I need to do? I think you need to make that ICH into an ICHK, Brian. I think it's going to throw an error. I'm pretty sure you need to fix that. So once it's passed through that loop, basically once it passes through that loop, we know that IC2 doesn't equal IC1, so it's not a city, it's not a route that has the same city, and we know that it's a route that doesn't match a route that's previously been done. Oh yeah, and then I have to copy that down to below. Oh, I did remember to increment, but Brian, you didn't call it the right name above. You've got an ICH instead of an ICHK. Gosh, is this what y'all go through every week, watching me just head toward disaster on these codes? This is, I mean, gosh, this is dramatic. Oh yeah, and then I have to append everything to the routes list because I need to actually, you know, I need to actually store those. Okay, we got some indentation to work out there, Brian. There we go. Okay, here's where I'm going to find my mistake. There we go. Oh, I haven't found the mistake yet. Did that mistake stay in? Let me check really quick, see whether that mistake stayed in. Okay, that mistake did not stay in. That's good. That's good. Okay, so what am I pausing for here? Oh, right. This is where I'm checking to see that it did work. I mean, that's going to be a lot of trials to check, Brian. Okay, I am checking my code now, and I do see that I fixed that ICH into an ICHK. So I either fix it here on the video or I fixed it later on. So it is fixed in the version that is available. Oh yeah, there it goes right there. ICH is not defined. Yep, Sheldon found the problem. Good job, Sheldon. We appreciate your enthusiasm for programming and board games. Yeah, that'll work. Search for the ICHs. Oh, there's one. Okay, cool. So I just do a master replace. There we go. Let's run it again. 4 players. We start. All right, so I have to, so I'm keeping track of it again. And now I see there's only 3 minutes left of the video, so I must have it working. I mean, I fixed all the ICHs, so I know it's working. So yeah, so like I said, this was a fun code to make. I know I keep saying that, but I don't know when I'm going to end the video because I don't know when this recording is going to get boring. But like I said, this was a fun code to make. This might be something I try again is another maybe board game helper, you know, to sort of, you know, expand the world of board games and, you know, make it so that there's less manual stuff to keep track of. And also, you know, break up some of the, like this code, we're using this to break up some of the, you know, some of the repetitiveness of it by making more possibilities for it. So yeah, so do be on the lookout for a future episode where I'm going to expand this code a little bit. I will probably be doing that the week after this episode. I'm not sure yet. Because I'm currently recording several in the same day. Paris to Brindisi. Why did I put an exclamation mark by that? I'm not sure why I put an exclamation mark by that. Maybe because that one was weird or something? I don't know. Did I misspell it? I don't know. Let's see here. There's Mr. Wolowitz there. So be on the lookout for a future video where I'll be expanding this. This was a lot of fun. If you're a Ticket to Ride fan, I hope you find this code useful. Oh, I will also, you know, I'm an hour in and I should probably state this. I'll also have at the bottom a standalone code so you don't have to install Python to use this. It'll be a standalone executable. Okay, things are looking successful here. So, and I know it's successful because I have a working code, and trust me, we've tested it enough. So I think I've got about 60 seconds to sign off. So I want to thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.